I'd like to think that the dumbest one that was pitched is in the game. I can't imagine us going, boy, that's really dumb. That doesn't belong in a friendship move. Dumb, funny things is what all friendship moves are about. Hi, my name is Ed Boon. I am the creative director at NetherRealm Studios. We are about to go through every single friendship move in Mortal Kombat 11. A friendship move is a friendly version of a fatality. After the reactions to some of our fatalities from the early Mortal Kombat games, we decided to create the anti-fatality.
Friendship.
A friendship is a childish, funny, novel finishing move that the players can do when they don't want to really do something too violent. And we're going to cover all 37 characters, including our 3 new fighters, Raiden, Mileena, and Rambo, who joined the roster as part of Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate and Kombat Pack 2.
BARAKA.
Baraka's friendship move is actually based on his friendship move from Mortal Kombat 2. Way back in the 90s, we had much less sophisticated presentation. Baraka used to just take out a presentation and present it to his opponent. Now, in 2020, we can do much more of an elaborate performance. Now he takes out the cake, he throws it up in the air, he cuts it up, and there's just this big mess. So we're just kind of playing on that original idea, but updating it with a much more elaborate presentation.
Cassie Cage.
Cassie's friendship move is kind of like our social commentary on what younger people are doing these days. And so it's all about the selfie, it's all about social media and creating a persona. It's funny that she went through this crazy, brutal fight, and then as a celebration, she takes out her cell phone and begins to kind of document what she looked like after the fight. I always found that friendship move one of the more humorous ones in the game. I think every single friendship move that we do, it'll be 1 out of 4 or 5 ideas that are being pitched. And then based on the complexity of it, how funny we think it is, how dumb we think it is. If we think a friendship move is dumb, that's usually a really good sign. The whole point of these things is to be silly, to be the opposite of a fatality, to get laughter out of somebody rather than shock. Because we have almost 40 friendship moves in the game, a lot of the ones that we did not use, I've somehow forgotten all about.
Cetrion.
If you're familiar with Cetrion, she's all about balance and she's all about good and evil. So her friendship move is also all about balance. She brings up a tree, it's all about nature and everything, and then generates a swing and is just swinging and enjoying the balance of nature. It's not an elaborate friendship, but it certainly reflects her personality.
D'Vorah.
D'Vorah's friendship, she has always had ties with the insect world. It actually starts out a little bit dramatic. She turns into a cocoon, and then the exact opposite of what you're expecting happens. She basically bursts out as a butterfly. The irony of she's always been the most disgusting representation of bugs, and then kind of coming out at the other end of the spectrum with this butterfly is quite fitting for her if we were to give her a friendship move.
Erron Black.
Erron Black is a gunslinger. We figured, what is the most non-threatening use of guns that we can think of? I love the way this friendship move starts really dramatic. You kind of see his head tilting up, almost like a Clint Eastwood movie, and then we quickly transition to a carnival shooting gallery. You see glimpses of this idea used for other friendships. We're going to see something similar to that in the future, but this whole, how quickly he does it, quick shot, is probably one of my favorite kind of like setting that's created in this friendship with Erron Black.
Frost.
Frost, like Sub-Zero, having this kind of cold power, you knew it was going to have something to do with ice. We decided to make an ice skating rink. One of my favorite things about this particular friendship is the animations. We don't have an ice skating rink in our motion capture studio, but somehow our animation team and mocap team duplicated the feeling of ice skating. And so she's skating around the arena. Her spinning move at the very end is particularly funny just because her head stays still while her body kind of rotates it. I still don't know how those guys pull that one off. Much of what gives the realism in terms of the feel and look with our games is the fact that we grab a lot of our animations through motion capture. So we have motion capture talent come in. We actually have them perform the moves. For Frost, what was so particularly exciting is the fact that we did not have a skating rink, so we could not capture it live. But our animators can really perform miracles as far as getting the perfect look and feel. So it was a combination of motion capture, but a lot of animation magic put on top of that.
FUJIN.
FUJIN is the god of wind. Naturally, we wanted to have his friendship move be of him flying a kite. He experiences all the struggles that a kid does trying to get the kite in the air. He decides to use his powers to make the kite get off the ground. What's so funny about this friendship for me is that he's actually skipping. He's skipping like a child, which is so kind of in the spirit of what friendship moves are. In retrospect, I wish that we had Raiden come out, who's Fujin's brother, flying the kite together. I think it would have been just that extra kind of oomph for it. But we could not be happier with how this friendship move turned out. It's easily one of the most playfuls in the entire game.
Geras.
Geras is one of the more almost random and confusing friendship moves. We really were kind of thinking, what do you do with somebody who has control over the sands of time? And of course you take those sands and build a sandcastle. One of the funny details I love about it is the concentration that Geras has as he's putting that last flag on the top of the castle. He's got his tongue sticking out like he just wants to put it in the exact right place. My favorite part is his arms folding at the end, looking at his masterpiece, and he's so happy and proud of it. That facial expression really sells the whole thing for me. Every single thing that we can do now is something I wish we had back in the day. The technical struggles way back in the 90s were as big of a challenge as coming up with the original ideas. You came up with the ideas and that was great, but then how do you do it when you're kind of inside this box? Now the box is gigantic. It's a much different challenge, but the capabilities are almost limitless at this point.
Jade.
Jade's friendship is based on her staff, and when we were thinking what do kids do with something like a staff, the idea came up of a piñata. So Jade swinging her staff at a piñata and hundreds of pieces of candy flying out is a very fun friendship move for the team to make. What I love is the nuance of her clapping. She's so happy with herself, sitting down with her legs crossed and being almost kind of overwhelmed at how much candy is in front of her. Excitement almost taking over her as she doesn't even know which piece of candy to take. So she's kind of frantically grabbing every piece of candy that she can even spot. That last moments there where she's just in bliss is really what sells this friendship move. Most of the time we look at the character in terms of their abilities or something about their costume that really stands out. Based on those ideas, what is reasonable for us to create, we will pick the right one. But normally there is a thread of a connection between the character and the friendship move. Sometimes it's a lot more of a obvious connection, and sometimes it's a bit of a stretch, but those ones that are a bit of a stretch are actually sometimes the funnest ones.
JACQUI BRIGGS.
Jackie's friendship is the character wanted to do something screwed up, and that's the kind of visual gag. Jackie takes out like a punching bag, and she's using these kind of high-tech arms, you know, kind of showing them off, punching this kind of rocking punching bag. She thinks that she gave it the final blow, and then it surprises Jackie and the audience and hits her. Obviously, because it's a friendship, she doesn't get upset about it, but it's certainly a bit of a surprise, and that's the kind of visual gag. So hers is kind of like the first something went wrong scenario that we have in the game.
Jax.
Jax is friendship move. You can almost call Jax plays the sax. He is one of the simplest but stylized friendship moves in the game. The music and the camera are some of the biggest parts of what gives this friendship move the style. He's got this subtle kind of dancing going, the 70 shots with the multiple versions of Jax. I love the background graphics. Some people don't notice that when he ends it, he's actually playing the Mortal Kombat theme. I love those kind of nuances that we put in there.
Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage's friendship obviously has to be related to showbiz. We wanted to add something unexpected, so he snaps his fingers, the lights go out, and suddenly we're on a stage, and he does this little dance number with a hat and cane. The dancing is purposefully hokey. That's part of the charm of it, is he's not a professional dancer, but he's so arrogant that he thinks he can pull any of that stuff off. The little leg trick that he does at the very end is funny, and when he ends it, his hands are kind of doing like a jazz hands thing. If you watch that friendship move a number of times, you'll pick up on little nuances just like that.
Rambo.
John Rambo's friendship is laser tag. I love the way it starts. It has a clear reference to the Rambo movies where he's suiting up. You think that something serious is going on, but when he clicks that gun and you see it light up, you know something's different, and boom, we switch to this laser tag situation where he's in front of and hiding behind two inflatable cover walls. We go through a sequence of his head popping up, taking shots at opponents, crawling between the two, shooting in a variety of ways. It's a classic, it's not what you think it is kind of scenario.
It'll be right between the eyes.
John Rambo helps finish out our goal of getting as many 80s action stars in Mortal Kombat. We've had Terminator, we've had ROBOCOP.
You are under arrest, dirtbag.
And now John Rambo, so he really bookends that whole guest character roster that we have going.
Machines are either a benefit or a hazard.
The thing about the licensed characters that was such a pleasant surprise for us was that we make the characters do such silly things. We were really concerned that the owners of the license would have an issue with us doing something as silly as that. But with Rambo, with ROBOCOP, with Terminator, they were such great sports about it. That was one of the most pleasant surprises in all of this, was how enthusiastic they were with having their characters play along in this silly portion of the game, which is the friendships.
The Joker.
Joker has been in a number of NRS games over the years. In Mortal Kombat 11, it's probably the darkest representation that we've had. It was fun to see him back again in a lighter tone. Like JACQUI, his friendship move is another something went wrong. It starts off, he's trying to do something really sinister with a gun. From out of the blue, the batarang comes out and hits him in the back of the head. He actually even references Batman.
Come on, Bat!
And then he switches over to taking out some balloons. At the end of the day, he says, "I'm sorry." So it's kind of like the batarang kind of snapped him back into place into the more kinder, gentler Joker. We really wanted to have it be like a hint of Batman.
Come on, Bat!
We certainly didn't want to have him just come out and then everybody's going to be wanting to play him if we actually created his model for the game. We've used Joker 3 times before, in Mortal Kombat vs. DC, Injustice 1, and Injustice 2. In the T-rated games, we didn't want to kind of go crazy with him in terms of his violent side. And in Mortal Kombat 11, that's when everything kind of went loose. Throwing Joker into the mix with the Mortal Kombat game, that's when you really get the opportunity to take off all the reins and have him do crazy sick stuff.
Cabal.
Cabal's friendship is probably one of the most random friendships in the game. He zips onto the screen and there's this gigantic xylophone that he starts playing. Probably what I'm most impressed with this friendship is the animation. It is perfectly synced to the music that is playing. You would never think that those were 2 separate efforts that were done by different team members. Again, another subtle reference to the Mortal Kombat song. I don't know how they managed to time that so perfectly. That's a tribute to our animation and audio team working together. As random as it was, it's definitely one of the more entertaining friendship moves.
Kano.
Kano was one of our more direct friendship moves. Everybody thinks of Kano, Australian, shrimp on the Barbie, so in some respects we had to do what we did. Kano uses his eye laser to start a barbecue, and he's got bratwurst or something on there. If you look closely, you will notice that there are shrimp on that barbecue. I wish we had him pick up a shrimp. It would have been a more direct reference, but for the people who are looking for those details, yes, I can confirm that there are shrimp on that Barbie.
Kitana.
Kitana's friendship move is probably the most friendliest and perhaps innocent or childlike. Since Mortal Kombat 11 was released, everybody has been clamoring for a Mileena. I used to kind of troll people by saying, you know, technically Mileena is in the game because she's in Kitana's friendship move where they play patty cake. They're traditionally very bitter rivals, but the irony of seeing them play together like sisters who grew up together is what is so cute about this friendship move. I love at the very end, there's like this nuance where they actually mess up and then they both realize it and they both laugh. That's what kind of like bonds them together. So they kind of give each other a big hug, realizing that they messed up. They're just celebrating their sisterhood.
Collector.
Collector's friendship is called a one-man band friendship. He pulls out a number of instruments. There's drums, there's a horn, there's a flute, there's a guitar, and he's playing them all at the same time, a one-man band. You really got to look at that one a number of times to see the nuances that we put in that friendship move. Again, everything is synced up from the cymbal hits to the horns, all perfectly synced with the music. The fact that he had 4 arms, I guess in reality we could have done that with SHEEVA or Goro or Wataru or any one of the 4-armed characters, but the Collector was the one who we thought it matched a little bit. He's probably a little bit more sophisticated than the monster type characters. I'm sure that whoever animated it was a huge challenge. To me, it's like a hyper version of walking, chewing gum, rubbing your stomach at the same time. The fact that it has to be in tune with the music and the individual 4 or 5 instruments that he's playing at the same time. I can't imagine being the one who has to kind of coordinate all of those things together.
Total Khan.
Kotal Kahn's friendship is perhaps the shortest and the simplest. Like FUJIN, he is a character who has command of certain elements. FUJIN with wind, Kotal is with the sun. Obviously, we thought, okay, let's have him pull out a lawn chair and get a suntan. He pulls out a lawn chair, sits down, gets one of those reflective mirrors to make the most out of his sunbathing, and just chills. One of the nuances you notice if you stare at his face, he eventually closes his eyes. I don't know if he's trying to fall asleep or if he's trying to make sure that his eyelids also get suntan. The team put a light source because we really wanted his face to be lit up. To put something above him and then have it reflect down probably doesn't give us the kind of precision control that we want, but if you set a light point where the player can't see it, you can really frame Kotal's face with a lot more precision and detail.
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao's friendship is another one of the super childish little nuances that kids do. It starts with his classic teleport, and then when he pops up, a train set appears around his hat, which is just perfect for Kung Lao. And he is playing with the front engine of the train, and then he's spinning it around. The nuances that I love of this friendship move is he's kicking his feet like little kids do when they're watching TV or something like that. Those little touches that the animation team, the cinema team puts in there just gives it that little extra oomph of childlike play that makes these friendship moves feel that much more silly, but in some ways endearing. The old friendship where he throws his hat and the dog goes to fetch it, and if you keep in mind that his hat is made of razors at the edge and you hear a yipe, a lot of people got that joke. I think we didn't want to repeat that one just because things look so much more real today. I don't want to see like a dog that looks like a real dog end up with that kind of demise.
Liu Kang.
Liu Kang's friendship it's the return of the disco ball. Like BARAKA, it's a remake of an old school friendship move that he had where a disco ball would come down and he would kind of do this dance. Back in the day, we had very little memory to do it, so he would just kind of repeat the same animation over and over again. This time, it's a whole setup. You see the lights on the ground, you see the movements. He has choreography. There's little hints of like a Saturday Night Fever point that he does. The nuance again of this one I love is he's a little bit awkward. He's not a professional dancer. There's a certain awkwardness, which I think is great. It's a little endearing dorkiness that he has where he's doing the dance, But at the end of the day, it's Liu Kang. He's got a lot of nobility. He hasn't really had much time to learn about dancing, and it kind of shows.
Mileena.
Mileena's friendship we can call the teddy bear tea party. If you notice, the 3 teddy bears are a teddy bear of Mileena, Katana, and Jade, and they're kind of like our famous female ninjas in a sense. Whenever one of those characters is not in the game, everybody is clamoring for whatever happened to this character. We've gone through that a number of times. I love the way that when Mileena sets up this tea party, she is constantly in the process of making things even better. She's adjusting the teddy bears, she's pouring the tea, her teddy bear falls over, she picks it up, she's applauding. She could not be happier to be there. That tea party is just the perfect kind of summary of the childlike part of Mileena. At the end of the day, I kind of wish we had done one of those for the male ninjas. It would have been cool to see Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Rain or something do the same thing. But we were able to do it with the females, and so that worked out great.
Nightwolf.
Nightwolf's friendship is pretty much an animal act, almost like a circus act. At first he pulls out this ring, lights on fire, and you're just wondering, is this something more serious? You see his spirit wolf come out. What I love is the nuance of him tapping his leg, enticing the wolf to jump through the hoop. When it does, then everything cuts loose, where the eagle's flying in, we see the bear in the background balancing on the ball, and it's just this big staged circus act. What I found so entertaining about it is Nightwolf, how into it he is. You know, he's just coaxing the wolf to jump through the hoop, and how proud he is holding the eagle at the very end. Like, I taught these animals how to do this. It's such a funny situation to be set up.
NOOB SAIBOT.
This might actually be my favorite friendship move in the game. Easily it's in the top 3 for me. It starts out with him splitting into 3 as a clone, and then a jump rope sequence. This was a fun idea. I think it worked out great, but it was absolutely sold by the performance. One of our motion capture talent, his name is Nate, he just went crazy with it. So you see all the nuances. I've never seen somebody in a motion capture studio have so much fun contributing to the spirit of one of our cinematic moments. The ink splashes on the ground as his hands and his feet make contact with it is such a great detail of it. But again, it's that performance and the animation. I've never seen something communicate joy so much as to that guy dancing and jumping rope at the same time. It was just such a great performance.
RAIDEN.
Raiden's friendship, along with Liu Kang and Baraka and a number of other characters, is a nod to their original friendship move. Raiden's was called Kid Thunder. And Kid Thunder makes a return in Mortal Kombat 11. A much more elaborate, choreographed light dance return. So Raiden summons Kid Thunder, and we hear that kind of familiar Kid Thunder yell. We see this great light dance performance. The detail of him doing that kind of break dance moment, and you'll notice if you wait until the very end, he kind of gives this look to his dad, almost like he's looking for approval or something like that. You have to see those friendship moves a number of times to pick all of those up. Rain's friendship is the carnival water gun. The way that it starts, there's an irony to it because he's sitting in a carnival, but the camera comes zooming in close and he's holding his finger like a gun, like he's going to do some kind of action with it, and then he points it at this party game that starts filling up the balloon and it pops. I love the way that the actual prize that he wins just falls from the sky, and he's holding it kind of real proud of it, and decides to show off a little bit more by creating a water spout coming from his hand, and that's kind of elevating the prize that he just won, and it just kind of stays there with him in the sense of pride that he won this ridiculous stuffed animal.
ROBOCOP.
ROBOCOP's friendship is ROBOCOP does the robot. It's a very retro dance sequence, which looks so ridiculous. Again, it's another example of how grateful we are that the owners of these licenses allowed us to do ROBOCOP doing these 80s, 90s, 2000s dance nods. The moonwalk and all the things is such a funny thing to see, and everybody will kind of make the connection, ROBOCOP doing the robot. Again, I'm so glad that they allowed us to do something as silly as that. The music and the performance, again, this is another one of those friendships where the performance just carries it. The motion capture that talent that we have, and the animators just nailed the kind of spirit of what this friendship move is trying to do.
Scorpion.
Scorpion's friendship, I guess you can call the get over here giant teddy bear. It was one of the first friendships that we did where we kind of like set the tone of the remaining friendships in the game. He looks like he's going through one of his victory moves where he throws his spear out, the camera's this dramatic angle, but instead of some victim being pulled in, it's this big teddy bear and Scorpion just starts hugging him. One of the details that are in that particular friendship that I hope people pick up on is as he's hugging the teddy bear, he looks up and he acknowledges the teddy bear one more time and then continues to hug him. And it's really a so opposite of Scorpion moment that kind of defines what the spirit of these friendship moves is intended to be.
Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung's friendship is, like some of the others, a tribute to his Mortal Kombat 2 friendship. He basically just kind of creates this rainbow, and it's kind of like this universal symbol for love and everybody getting along, which is great. This time he has this sinister look on his face and he's creating this big spell that you think something bad is going to come out of, but then all of a sudden he just reverts back to that pose with his arms in the air, opening them up, revealing the rainbow, and back to friendship. It's a little bit of a trick there where he starts sinister, but then he kind of reverts back to that friendship. But it's one of our quick and simple friendship moves in the game.
Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn, along with Aaron Black and Rain, is a carnival-related friendship move. Everybody knows Shao Kahn. He's the big hammer. What do you do with a big hammer? You test your might, in a sense. And of course he's Shao Kahn, so he breaks the bell at the top. Everything shatters and he's all proud of himself. That's his kind of I break the rules type of thing. And that's, again, the kind of trifecta of carnival games that we have in Mortal Kombat 11.
SHEEVA.
SHEEVA's friendship is she plays the wine glasses. This is easily the quietest, smoothest, most mellow friendship that we have in the game. With these characters that have 4 arms, we really try to think of something novel for them to do. And SHEEVA, at the end of the day, she probably would prefer peace. And so we just put a whole bunch of wine glasses in front of her and she's just using all 4 arms to play this soothing music, very zen. But also one of the more simple friendship moves in the game. There's nothing really complex about it, just a whole bunch of wine glasses that she plays this little symphony on.
SINDEL.
Sindel's friendship is another quick and simple one. It's a bit of a gag. She takes out a wine glass, and Sindel is known for her voice, her scream, her ability to do damage with this voice. And so you think that she's going to scream and shatter the wine glass, but as she is screaming, the camera lens actually cracks. She gives this sinister laugh, and she just takes a sip of the wine because why not? I love the kind of little bit of a gag that's in it where you think she's going to do the obvious and then something else happens. I think it might be our only friendship move that kind of breaks that fourth wall with the player. It's one of the kind of gag friendship moves. In our games, there is no like physical object that is the lens. Throughout the game, we use different fields of view depending on how dramatic we want to be with something, the mood that we're trying to set. But that friendship is kind of playing on that, where it's kind of like, hey, don't forget you're looking at this video game through a lens. Again, that's that little nuance of kind of breaking that fourth wall.
SKARLET.
SKARLET's friendship can be called the masterpiece. Starts out a little dark. She's painting with blood. She goes from precision, where she's really concentrating, and then she goes to these crazy moments where she's throwing blood at the canvas. You're wondering, what is this gonna be? Basically, when she reveals it, it's a self-portrait. It looks like a child painted it. It makes no sense at all. The detail that I love about this one is the facial expression that she has when it's done. It's such a childish painting, but as any artist would be, she's just as proud as can be with this very basic self-portrait.
Sonya.
Sonya Blade's friendship is probably one of the cuter friendships in the game. She actually plays fetch with her robot. In typical Mortal Kombat fashion, that cute little drone, which looks like an 80s movie robot, comes back and it's dragging this dead body. The irony being that Sonya, when she sees it, she goes, "Aww," as if it's something that's really cute. The star of it is her little robot and its game of fetch.
Spawn.
Spawn's friendship is probably the shortest, short and sweet, and it definitely demonstrates the opposite of a character's personality. Spawn, who is just the epitome of hell and violence.
It's a special kind of hell, isn't it?
This crazy cape, suddenly showing him using the cape as a hammock, and he's reading, relaxing. Again, the music plays such a big part because it's the saxophone. It absolutely sets the mood. It's just so not what you would expect Spawn to do. And once again, for the people who created Spawn, who allowed us to do this, we're very grateful.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero's friendship is the ice cream truck or ice cream vehicle. It opens with the most ridiculous animation on Sub-Zero where he's randomly excited and runs off the screen, and you're kind of wondering, what are you so excited about? He comes back on the screen with this old school ice cream vehicle. There's an umbrella overhead. Written on the cooler is Sub-Zero frozen treats. You see Goro with 4 cones, 1 in each hand, and Scorpion where he dropped his cone because of course Sub-Zero and Scorpion are still rivals at the end of the day, so he's not going to have a picture of Scorpion having fun. At the very end, he generates one of the popsicles with his freeze power, of course. It's so childish. It's so ridiculous. That's why it works.
The Terminator.
The Terminator's friendship is motorcycle tricks. Terminator has one of his kind of like signature things is his big motorcycle that he rides on. We thought it would be funny to have him do stunts. So he leaves and then all of a sudden he's riding on the motorcycle and you're like, oh, okay, he's gonna just exit the scene. But then he stands up on the motorcycle and he's balancing, and that smile that he gives to the camera, that moment is probably the most entertaining part of that friendship moves. And then he just begins a process of back and forth, riding with a handstand. And then you see him popping a wheelie. There's a charm to it. The fact that everybody knows that face and everybody knows how serious Terminator traditionally is, seeing Terminator with a smile, goofing around in a friendship, again, we're so grateful we're allowed to do that, just sells that friendship move perfectly. So that is every friendship move in Mortal Kombat 11. There was a lot to cover. I hope you learned a little bit about how we designed these moves and maybe thought of a different way to finish him.